You're listening to the Finding Truth podcast. When we're not getting distracted by Jacob's plain facts, we discuss taking ownership of our faith and what it looks like to follow Jesus in today's culture. Here are your hosts, Lockie and Brad.
Well, hey, and welcome back to the Finding Truth podcast. We are back for another week. I hope you've been enjoying the content coming out so far on transformative prayer. But today we've got something a little bit different for you. And as we start, I want to clear something up. I've been pretty bad recently with leaving people on red.
Can confirm. Can confirm.
There's look, I could come up with a list of excuses as to why I do it, but I can imagine that for some people in this room, there's a low level frustration and anger that has been carried through this recording session for me not responding to any of the notifications about what's going on here. So
all is forgiven. We will move on.
Forgiveness.
We're
not talking about
Which
that
we're not
today.
talking about today.
We might need to next episode because you're not looking too forgiving, really.
That's a good segue. But I mean, look, there is nothing worse than being left on red.
No, it's nothing.
Wow, they might like death by chainsaw. I hear your points.
It's a close second.
It's true. Second.
Marketplace is the worst.
It really is.
It is.
It really is.
I just want to know if it's available and when I can get it. And people don't reply.
Or when you're selling something, they're like, "Yeah, is it available? Yep, I want it. Great. When are you going to pick it up?" Silence.
You know, the one I had recently was somebody sending me a message, is this available? Straight away, yes. They send back, I need this. And I was like...
You're like, we're on the same page here. When do you want it?
Such
desperation. I need this. And I can't remember what it was, but it definitely was not a need item. And then left on red. He didn't want it. He didn't apparently need it.
He never need it all.
Just decided he didn't
What
want
about
it.
the one where like, I'll come around and pick it up at 3:00, but you assume it's today or next day or this week, and it turns out that it's a decade or so time. Like, it just never happens.
Never happens.
You're waiting around, just like, come on,
Nothing.
And part of me wants to be rude back and like just call it out, but then they'll give you a bad rating and then all of a sudden you can't sell anything anymore. So.
Yeah, and you're a Christian, so you should love Jesus and love that.
Yeah, that comes into it too. A little bit of that.
Bad rating, totally.
When they left you on red, everything goes out the window.
You want the wrath of God, right? Like, let's bring the thunder. Man.
Yeah. So Left on Red is coincidentally the title of this little mini series we're doing. And basically we're just going to look at the times that and the clear messages that God gives us that we leave on red. Mm-hmm. Because just like everyone does it to us when on Facebook Messenger or Marketplace or when Jacob wants me to get a van for camp, whatever that might be.
A bus,
sorry. There are so many times.
I'm the van/bus master.
There are so many times where God gives us a clear message or a clear instruction in the Bible and we just leave that message on red.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Too hard or
It's too hard.
Convenient?
It's easier not to read it. I mean, when I get a message from Jacob, I've learned that if you hold down on a message, you can read it without reading it.
That has been one of the worst things I've learned.
That's all right
recently.
because I know he's still read it.
Anything.
Don't do that, kids. Don't do that.
Don't do that, kids. However, I feel like sometimes we do that with God. God gives us a clear message and we hold down on it. We read the preview and go, I'm just going to leave him on red for now because it would be a little bit easier if I didn't have to do that thing.
Yep.
And so today I wanted to talk about idolatry.
It's like, God says, have no other gods before me.
Yeah.
Like straight up, that's pretty clear.
It is clear.
And we tend to do a lot of creative workarounds, hey?
We do. And I think too, like idolatry, I mean, it's a big word. It's probably...
It's an old word too.
It's a very old word. And quite frankly, I think too, if we're being honest, a lot of the time we probably don't quite understand exactly what that means. We're sitting there going, well, we're not making little idols in our bedroom out of Lego or like we're not building idols in our room like or shrines like they were in the Old Testament. So we're not building idols, God. We're not doing that. But I think sometimes we miss the message of what God actually means when he says that.
Yep.
When he says, have no idols but me.
Yeah. I don't think we're super aware of what those idols are for each of us in our own lives. I heard a story recently of an American missionary going to Africa and seeing all the little golden idols like we would think idols are, and going, the idolatry here is just prolific. It's terrible. And the African pastor there said, well, I came to America once and I'll never go back. And he's like, why? And he goes, because the idolatry is just too much for me to handle. Like,
there you go.
Because just in terms of our Western culture, we're so privileged. We have everything at the end of our fingertips, access to anything we want most of the time. And we often will turn to those things before we do to God.
We're so blind. Like that illustration's so good because when you see a little gold statue, you can tell it's an idol. But we have tons of idols that we're just identifying them and seeing the grip they have on us is half the challenge.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so I guess, would we agree then, if we look at idolatry and if we try to define idolatry, it really basically just simply fizzles down to anything that we're putting before God.
Yeah.
Right? Anything that's coming before our relationship with God. Anything that's sitting in that number one position if we were going to rank things. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're evil. So if that you know, it's
usually they're not.
Usually they're not. It's not a bad thing to play 7 instruments or to be on, 4 sports teams or do whatever you do in your social time. It's not an evil thing to play Xbox or, the new Lego Star Wars came out, if any of you are Star Wars fans, but whatever it might be, it's not evil to do those things. But when we start to put them in front of God, when we start to put them before God, whether that's before prayer or before we spend time with God or before coming to church or youth group or whatever that might be, that's when we start to idolize those things before God.
Yeah, totally. I think a really helpful way to look at it is what are the affections of my heart drawn toward?
Yeah.
So, you look at your mates and the set mates you just enjoy hanging around with more than others. And so if you put God into that scenario, you go, what do I prefer hanging around with or doing or engaging with or thinking about that's over and above God? Because that's probably a good indicator. It's not got a healthy position in my life for it, and I need to do something to get rid of it, to take away its power, and attention that I'm giving it that I should be giving God.
It's good. And I think also we constantly, especially for young people of this world, we're having our attention constantly sold and bought and sold and bought. And we're getting pulled in all these different directions, and marketers are doing a pretty good job of that. But what they're doing is not just trying to take our attention and distract us. They're actually playing on those heart desires. Like they're playing on a desire for intimacy, or they're playing on a desire for fulfillment or satisfaction. And those things, if we try and find those in other things like sport or Minecraft or relationships apart from God, then really what's happening is we're turning those into an idol and pouring our devotion, our affection into them, the desires of our heart, rather than into God, who should be the surest source of all of those things.
Yeah.
Now, does it count if that is a church Minecraft server?
Be careful what you say, Bradley.
Whitehill
has one.
Because nothing has impressed me more than the fact that Whitehill has a church Minecraft server.
You don't want to offend Trent now, do you?
We do. It's a good plug. If you'd like to join the Whitehill Minecraft server, I have no idea how it works.
I have no idea how it works too.
If somebody wants to teach me how it works, I'll join you there.
Does that count as church?
You've really thrown me a curveball.
I'm sorry.
Yes, it could be an idol. Do you know that coming to a Sunday service could be an idol? Because,
it's true.
hear this out, we think that our faith is sort of legitimized by the fact that we're in a building on a Sunday morning. And if we religiously turn up every single Sunday going, this is what I do, this is why I do it, you're actually missing the point of creating that relationship with God, and just the pure fact of attending can become an idol before actually developing a relationship with the true and living God. So,
yeah, it's so good. I even find even doing things like running Fuse Camp, right? It you get so caught up in the work of building Fuse and running this epic camp that it can be hard sometimes to forget. Like when you're putting together ridiculous Trouble Wars like Unstable Unicorns, or playing with big lights and stage and stuff, it's sometimes you forget and you go, hang on a second, we're not building. Is Fuse Camp the idol, or are we like, you've got to remember that it's God. This is why we're doing it. It's so easy, even in the good things, even in the Christian, the church, the camps, all of that. Sometimes it's super hard, or easy rather, to forget why we're actually doing it.
Ralph, you've been in youth ministry for a little while now. What do you reckon are some of the challenges that the youth are facing in terms of things that could be idols that maybe they're not aware of?
Probably the biggest one would be part of a system that becomes idolistic. So school requirements of sport or music or extracurricular activities, how you engage with them and the status they have in your life. I just have to do this to go to school. It's what our school does. Actually, the system of the school may be causing you to develop more idols than you'd like. And so becoming aware of that and wrestling with that. I think parents' expectations is another massive one of like, well, we want you to do well at school, so you have to do 9 hours of homework a night. That's actually not healthy. And so it creates opportunities for some discussion around that. If your parents aren't Christian, it becomes really tough and talk to a youth leader. But if they are, it's a wonderful You don't do it when you're in the middle of a fight and use it as ammunition. Oh, you just asked me to feed the idol. That's not going to go down well. But just having a conversation about these things are detracting my heart from God. Like, how can we work forward? And sometimes our mates and the ones that we hang out with or people that we want to hang out with, they have certain things that they idolize. And we want to be like them, and so we want to take on those idols. And it's the most empty thing we can do, but we don't realize it until we do it. There's just an emptiness that accompanied with that God says, no, you're mine, and you can be you and be solid in that and believe in me. You don't actually need those things that you think and everything tells you need. So it's an act of trust, trusting that God is enough and that those idols, they just actually can't fulfill us the way we want them to.
It's good. It's really good. It's almost so good that we should leave it there and pick up again next week?
I think so. I think that's a good place to leave Left on Red Part 1. However, we do have a Jacob looking very intently at us.
You know what I was trying to do there?
What?
Was leave us signals on red. I felt them coming across the table, wanting to get involved. I had a preview and I went, not today. But if you'd like to play, we can let him play.
I thought we'd let him play.
Would you like to play with us?
Yes, please.
Now, these mini-series, they're going to be a little bit more fun. And so in that, I think it's time for our Fact with Jacob, our weekly Fact with Jacob.
A weekly fact?
Well,
oh boy.
Something like that. But it's time for our Fact with Jacob.
What kind of fact would you like?
I'd like an aeroplane fact.
An aeroplane fact. Well, you're in luck. I've brought my aeroplane facts with me. Did you know that an aircraft carries only about 10 to 12 minutes worth of oxygen once you start the oxygen flow out of the oxygen masks?
False. It can't be true.
It is. It's true.
10 to 12 minutes.
Indeed.
That doesn't feel like
why
enough
is
time.
that? Yeah, what's the deal behind that?
Well, the human can only breathe oxygen from a certain altitude. After you go over that altitude, the oxygen is too thin and not enough to sustain life. So generally an aircraft is pressurized to the altitude of 10,000 feet.
Right.
And our aircraft generally flies around 20 to 30,000 feet.
Right.
So once you have a cabin depressurization, your masks will drop from the roof and you'll pull on them to start them. The pulling on them pulls a pin.
Yep.
Just like a grenade. And
it's exciting. I'm never going in a plane again, but this is exciting.
Oxygen masks and grenades. Who would have thought?
Pulls a pin just like a grenade and actually ignites a little cake. It looks like a little urinal cake in the ceiling.
It's a bit awkward.
And it actually burns this little cake. And the cake is made out of some sort of chemical. And as it burns,
and that creates the oxygen.
It creates oxygen.
So it's not actual oxygen tanks.
It's not.
So
no.
That has blown my mind.
Older aircraft have the actual oxygen tanks, but these new ones have these cake sort of things.
So if we're going down, we're breathing.
So yeah,
urinal cakes.
You are.
Well, if you've only got 12 minutes, you'll be going like face down,
yes,
trying to get under 10,000 feet.
You've got 12 minutes for the pilot to dive from 30,000 down to 10,000 feet.
I guess.
So your ears might blow up. from changing at the altitude so
As well
quickly.
as your lungs, because you're breathing in a urine. Okay.
But I guess if you're going down, you're probably going down quickly. So
You're going down as fast as possible.
That means
There
it
you
gives
go.
you 12 minutes to find the black box and hold on, because they always find the black box.
They do always find them.
I think
Well,
it's orange, isn't it?
well.
It's not even black.
Next plain fact. Next week we'll talk about the black box.
All right, there you go. Well, that is episode 1 of our mini series Left on Red, and we'll see you guys next week for more fact fun.
Fun fact.